Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Robert Phoenix, and I apologize for being late today. I've been trying to get on with my computer since about 5 to 9, and sometimes weird shit happens to my computer. It will shut down on its own accord, and because again, I'm using an older computer, which is for the most part about as reliable as it gets right now. It takes me a while to ramp it up. So it really took me about almost 40 minutes to reboot my 2009 Apple. Now, again, I have another computer, a laptop, and I threw some money into it. I got a new solid state hard drive. I got new fans, and I took it in and I got it worked on, and it's just slow as shit. And it's not even close to this beaten and battered 2009 era Apple. So what I'm going to try to do is get a new solid state hard drive for this one, not upgrade the operating system, just get a new solid state hard drive, and hopefully be able to get some more mileage out of this Apple. Because, like I said, it took me like 40 minutes to reboot this sucker, which I apologize for. So here we go. We got DJ MC, Tamara Garth, Nancy Dickerson, Leanne, the lovely and talented Jonas, Fifth Wall Radio. What's going on, Kestrel? Joe Dimitri, Beth Berry, Christy Tesmer. Hey, Christy, good to see you. Judy Anderson, there she is. Stevie 33. What's happening, Stevie 33? Lisa Marie in the house. There's Jan Augenstein. Nice to see you, Jan. Justice Moody, hello. Shannon, the Lunar Lady. Shannon, birthday, right? Birthday soon, right? Or are we there? Are we there? Solar return. If we passed it, or we're there, or if it's ahead of us, just wish Shannon a happy solar return, because I think we're in her orbit right now. The Bisu in the house, Misty Minor. What's happening, Misty? Good afternoon from the Bisu. The Bisu coming at us all the way from Europe. We are participating in a global community. We are participating in a universal experience linked together at a very important time in history. And you're all here paying attention and paying witness to what's now unfolding. So I have so much to cover today. So much. Victoria V in the house. So much to cover. I'm not even sure where to start. Why don't we start locally? Before I do that, let's get right to it. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God, of the great central sun, which is universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel. We ask at this point in time that only the highest and best information and wisdom come through this channel at this time, and that we have asked for courage and strength, intellect, the ability to discern truth from illusion, compassion, humor, flexibility, and most importantly, divine guidance through divine action, when to act and when not to act, and we would be able to listen to these things inside of our hearts and minds. We also ask any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed, so anything that attaches each and every one of us is no longer part of this experience, and we may re-enter our lives as sovereign beings, and so be it. Okay, Sherry Lewin, what's going on, Sherry? Nice to see you in here. Emerald V in the house. There's Bonnie Willow. It was June 24th. I know. I knew it, right? So we're a few days off, but it is a Mercury retrograde, so we can figure this stuff out as we go backwards in time. All right, let's get right to it. I want to give you the update here in Texas, which is the update for pretty much the rest of the country, and where this is headed. And again, we talked about this, we called this, we knew that when Mercury retrograde when it happened, they were going to try to move people back in. They were going to get ready for the next lockdown, and it's coming. It's coming. So they're going to. What did they do? They shut the bars down. They brought restaurants back to 25% capacity. What's going to happen next? Well, you're going to lose the ability to have a haircut, go to the beauty salon. Gyms are going to close again. And it's happening, right? They're moving all in. And you have people like Ron DeSantis and Ducey from Arizona. And here in Texas, we have Greg Abbott, also known, I call him as Professor X, because he wheels around in his wheelchair. Apparently, he's disabled. This is he was running, he was jogging, and a big log, a big branch of a tree got knocked off during a windstorm and clipped him in the back of the neck. And from this point forward, he is in a wheelchair. So I guess that makes him exempt from taking a knee. I guess Greg Abbott doesn't have to take a physical knee because, well, he can't, right? He can't. But he can take a metaphorical knee or an allegorical knee, and he clearly is. He's allotted $260 million to begin contact tracing here in Texas. And right here in the city of Fredericksburg, just like every other city now, unless you're living in Beaufunk and you got a population of about 700 people, you're gonna get the mandate. And here's how the mandate works. Now, not every city has a hospital, by the way. Not every city has a hospital. We have a hospital here in Fredericksburg. If you live in a place like, say, Llano doesn't have a hospital. Llano's north of here by about 35 miles. So they don't have a public health official who can play the role of Karen, and we have one here. And since she's a public official, I have no problem mentioning her name. Her name is Jane Pope. Interesting name, Pope, right? So Jane Pope has been banging the drum to get people in this town, everybody now, to wear a mask. Now, we had a mayor. Her last name was Langerhans, and she actually stood up to the mask mafia in this town. And I have my issues with Mayor Langerhans. She was not, let's just say, the most cooperative mayor when it came to the election process around the fluoride piece. And in fact, Clean Water Fred actually wound up suing her because of a lot of improprieties that were connected to the election, which I haven't really talked about. I'm not a part of the suit, but we did not sue the city. We sued her, and on May 31st, she stepped down. Now, her position was taken over, and again, I'm just going to be upfront, transparent. Guy by the name of Gary Neffendorf. Now, I don't know a lot about these people because, I'm really not from here. I've been here 2 years, and in Fredericksburg time, that's probably like 2 weeks. So he stepped in. This is a guy that was the city manager. He's one of these people, these are career kind of local level politicos. They bounce from here to that, to that, to that. City manager, city council, mayor, rinse, repeat, spin, recycle, right? So he stepped in, and he will be the theoretical mayor until November, when, again, there will be a theoretical election to elect a theoretical mayor. So Mr. Neffendorf, who I have seen during city council meetings, has bent over to the wishes of the head of the local hospital here, even though the so-called cases of coronavirus are quite few. The Karen of the Hill Country Memorial Hospital, known as Jane Pope, interesting name, right? Pope, has demanded that the entire, wherever you go in the city now, that you wear masks. Okay, so here's where this is all going. First of all, this has been one of the few places, like, people, and I know this for a fact because I talked to people who work at HEB. I talked to a guy who was my neighbor. He runs the meat department at HEB. He said that people would leave Austin to come shop at HEB in Fredericksburg. Wrap your head around that, okay? They came here to shop at the HEB because they didn't want to go to their HEB and wear a fucking mask, okay? So now, and by the way, this town was packed to the gills. Every business must submit a form as to how they're going to run their business under these new guidelines that Mayor Neffendorf has set forward, and they have till Monday. Now, think about this for a moment, okay? We have a city official who has no grounding in science or medicine, none of it. And he is making scientific and medical policy for the entire city based on the fact that we got a Karen running the hospital, big time Karen. And he just, okay, that's fine. Well, let me just tell you some of the blowback that's happening. People here are pissed. They're really pissed. He's already received a death threat. Think about that now. Not from me, obviously, but I heard about this. He's received a death threat. You think people are going to like it? This is a town that thrives on tourism. If we don't have people coming to this town, and guess what? The town shuts down. The economy goes away. Which, by the way, is the formula for the United States and the West right now. Okay, that's the formula, and we know it's happening. So this guy's under an intense amount of pressure, and it's not going to let up. It is not going to let up. And they said, well, the cops aren't going to enforce it, and the certain, okay, great. You think that that's the case? That is not going to be the case, because all of a sudden, all they have to do is get that little message, whatever that. And we know that right now, there is no common rule of law. There is no equal justice. Everything is being defined at a very capricious level. So there's no guarantees with any of this stuff. But he has no right. He has no basis, no grounding in science nor medicine. And when asked about why they've decided to go full mask tard here, the head of the hospital, who was basically said, we got 4 or 5 people right now in the hospital. Why are you doing this? Well, because of San Antonio. We're very close to San Antonio. And we can have all the unwashed heathens from San Antonio coming up here. And they can be spreading their San Antonio COVID germs. So let's just do the math, okay? Let's do the math, please. Let's have a moment of rational sanity. How long have we been doing this dance? How long? We've been doing this dance for a while. Don't you think that if this is... And look, nobody in this town, not everybody in this town wears a mask. Not everybody wears a mask. I walk around. I go to the store. I don't go to many places. I mean, I have no reason to go to many places. They shut the gym down. So I don't go to the gym. I don't eat out because I can cook better food here. The only place I go to is HEB. That's it, really. And what's interesting now, the other place I do go to is I go to Ace Hardware, because Ace Hardware is owned by the Biederman family, and Kyle Biederman is our representative in Washington, D.C. Now, the reason I'm bringing the Biederman piece up is because Biederman is connected to a number of Texans, Republicans, who are steaming fucking mad at Greg Abbott. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. This is Abbott has gone full on betrayal mode. So I'm gonna show you this here. Give me a second. So this is what this is Texas scorecard. So here he is. He's a Scorpio. He's got those Scorpio eyes. You see that? Scorpio rising has different eyes. So no mask mandate for Denton County. So Denton County can have no mask mandate, but here we got to have a mask mandate. Texas new coronavirus criteria could artificially spike Collin County cases. Here we go. Not long ago, it would have been unheard of for Republicans in the Texas legislature to openly criticize Governor Greg Abbott. Now a coalition of 4 Republican lawmakers in the Texas House is calling on the governor to stop playing games and working hand in hand with the Democrats, which is happening. The criticism comes after Greg Abbott gave his blessing to a mask mandate in Behar County earlier this week that would require businesses to mandate wearing of masks or face steep fines, opening the door for other local governments to follow suit. So when Nelson Wolf, who was a judge in Bexar County, which is San Antonio, found the loophole in Abbott's law, he basically pushed it, and Abbott didn't do a thing. He said, oh, great, you're so smart. You figured it out. Good for you. In a release on Friday, Republican state reps, there's Kyle Biederman, Fredericksburg, Tony Tinderholt, Arlington, Jonathan Strickland, Bedford, and Mike Lang, Granbury, called the mandate tyranny, plain and simple, adding that our governor is enabling it. Of course he is. This is not a problem to blame on Democrats since they're not in control in Texas. If in Virginia or California, one could rightly blame Democrat leadership, but not in Texas. If these absurd actions are happening here, the responsibility falls solely on Republican leadership. Governor Abbott refused to listen to many of us who asked him to allow business to open sooner. And now he's enabling Democrats to further oppress struggling businesses with burdensome fines. We are left asking ourselves, what happened in Texas? It was disheartening to hear the governor say he wanted to make sure individual liberties were protected, but at the same time, businesses could be tyrannized. It is inconsistent to say you believe Texans should be free to make their own decision on whether to wear a mask or not, but use of the heavy hand of the government to punish businesses and make them enforcers of tyranny on freedom-loving Texans. The government needs to stop playing games, return the Lone Star State to a land where freedom and liberty are not only talking points, but actually understood and applied to our actions. If he wishes to continue to have the government micromanage the lives of Texans, the governor needs to call a special session and earn the votes of the legislature for his big government policies. We will do our part to end the absurdity and protect Texas liberty. Abbott's mask order is the latest in a series of moves that have angered conservatives following the coronavirus shutdowns, the plethora of executive orders, and check this out, a $295 million deal to bring contact tracing to Texas. Now, Abbott is not an outlier. This is happening all over the country, okay? All over the country. This is what's going on now. He did a flip. They all got the memo, and we talked about this. We pretty much nailed this moving forward, predicted it moving forward, right? There it is. It's on the public record. So it's going to be interesting now to see what happens here, right here in this town, because this is where the stand has to take place. This is where we can't affect Greg Abbott. I don't have the money or the power to affect Greg Abbott. You know, I don't have the access. There's no, that dude is untouchable. But the mayor has his office down the street, where is it? That way, by about 2 miles. Okay. Now I'm not going to go by there, right? I'm not going to go by his office or anything like that. I'm not going to do the same stupid shit that, you know, quote unquote Antifa does or that side does. But at the same time, he's got to feel uncomfortable. He's got to feel uncomfortable, more uncomfortable than he felt vis-a-vis this woman Jane Pope. And by the way, she needs to feel uncomfortable too. They're a bunch of rich fat cats that live outside of town. They've got their own little subdivision there, and they've got their own. You know, that's their own private Idaho. That's where they live. And that's where they kind of run things, right? So, and even then, they're not even on Fredericksburg. They're not even Fredericksburg. They're in the county. They're in the county, so they're not even subjected to the same things that we theoretically in the city would be subject to. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the course of the next 2, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week. Okay, a week. And I'm telling you, this is an area where there is a lot of the silent majority, and they're going to stop being pretty silent. They're going to stop being silent. And there are business owners here that are really, really, really pissed. And I found out that there's a very prominent winery. I don't want to name the name of the winery, but the wine business is significant here. Really significant. And a lot of the wineries have tasting rooms in town. So they may have their tasting room, their winery in another part of just outside of the city, but they'll have tasting rooms inside the city. And this one particular winery also has a restaurant inside the city limits. And through the grapevine, he said that if there's another shutdown, he's going to lawyer up. And they trust me, this is a business that has plenty of money, plenty of income. So that's going to come square on Gary Neffendorf's head, square on his head. So one of the things that I think is incumbent upon these low-level order followers is to scientifically or medically prove why they're making a decision, and they won't be able to. They will not be able to. And if they try to, it can be refuted at almost every turn. Every turn. So let them prove it. Let them prove it in a court of law. Let them prove it in public. Can't. They won't be able to. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there for now because I'm just giving you sort of the bird's eye view. This just happened yesterday, what's happening on the ground. And if people succumb to the mask mandates, then it's not good. I'm just telling you, it's not good. It is not good to succumb to the mask mandate. And look, I may be in danger of like losing this channel or whatever because these channels are dropping like flies on YouTube. Stefan Molyneux, gone. He's gone. He's got a lot of people. And Stefan Molyneux is not somebody who is really controversial. He's not controversial. He's not somebody who's like really angry. He's not polarizing, but just gone, right? So we're seeing the theoretical digital purge that's taking place. It's totally taking place. So yeah, this is where we are. By the way, they got rid of the Trump's sub forum on Reddit. That's gone. Twitch is temporarily banned. Trump's channel on Twitch, that's gone. So we're seeing now they're going all in on the censorship piece, all in, because the slippery slope of hate speech or being divisive or any of that stuff that is brought up to justify something. And I think, what did they do? I think they went into Trump's Twitch channel and found something from 2016. Like, that's what they're doing now. They're going back and they're reviewing. This is what the communists do. And then all of a sudden they find something and boom, right? You're gone. You're done. And it's not even anything contemporary. Oh, you said this at such and such a time. This is the witch hunt that really started on Twitter. And they would go in and they would find things that certain people said, athletes, like stupid shit comments that maybe some guy made in high school. Like I remember Nick Bosa, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers. He said Beyonce's music is shit and doesn't know why people listen to Beyonce. And people found that, and they found it offensive. It blows the mind, man. It boggles totally boggles the mind. The universe that we're living in. All right, so I'm gonna give you just a little bit of comic relief, okay? Then I'm gonna try to burn as much as I can here today because the old gal's coming into town. I bet you she's stressed out, crazy. So I'm gonna show you guys something. I think this is kind of funny. This is funny. So what happened yesterday was Mr. Cruz, who is one of my favorite peeps in Chatlandia and in the comment section. Mr. Cruz brought up this idea of the temporary autonomous zone and how Hakeem Bey was doing these horoscopes. But it wasn't Hakeem Bey who was doing the horoscopes. It was this guy named Rob Brezhny. So, and I told him, I said, "Oh yeah, no, it's Rob Brezhny." And Rob is, I wouldn't say he's like a, I'm not sure if he's like a personal astrologer, but for a while in the 90s, Rob was really writing some really great horoscopes. Great horoscopes. And just writing in a style that I thought was really cool. So I eventually met Rob, and he was a student of Richard Grossinger's. My buddy Richard. Rob was one of his students. So I met Rob on a couple of occasions. We even talked. We had a really interesting kind of connection because at one time, his girlfriend, who is one of these kind of sacred kirtan kind of people in the Bay Area, shared the same birthday as me. So I'll never forget, one time I was at this party. And this was around, I think, 2010, roughly. I think it was 2010. So I'm at this party in Marin. I'm hanging out, and I'm talking with this woman, and she finds out I'm an astrologer and have a blog, and she says that, and I said, "Wow, my name is Robert," and so she's connecting Robert to Rob, and she goes, "Oh my God, I love your work. Oh my God, I love what you do." I'm like, "Really? Holy shit!" And then after a few more sentences, I find out that she's really referring to Rob Brezhny. So she thinks I'm Rob Brezhny. Anyway, so, Rob was, was an interesting character, but he, kind of went more full on progressive. And I just couldn't take it any longer. I couldn't take it any longer. And he posted this thing on Twitter, or not Twitter, Facebook, that before you overthrow the government, you have to overthrow yourself, which on some level makes sense, right? Like, I get that part. At the same time, there was this other guy who showed up on my Facebook. Now, I think somebody on Facebook recommended him to me, and his name is Damian Crisp, and he's a public person. So I started to talk with him on Facebook, and then I realized that he was just a complete and utter nihilist. He was an Occupy person, a complete nihilist, and again, didn't want to hear anything. So on the one hand, you had sort of the New Age solipsist, right? I.e. Rob Brezhny, and on the other side, you had the nihilist, the burn it down nihilist. So I decided to do a post about this, and I even made fun of myself in this post. You see, when you make fun of yourself, it keeps things real. All right, so I'm going to show you the post. So this is called the Battle Royale for Ideological Domination and the Freedom of Planet Earth. So what I did is I did all the Photoshop shit myself. You can tell it's not very professional looking. So I put myself in this cage match with Rob Brezhny and Damian Crisp. And so this is kind of a satire piece. But there are two things that really struck me about the satire, or at least about this piece. Since we're in a Mercury retrograde, and I decided to get into this thing and drill down into it, right? Just drill down into this sucker. So here we go. Not drill down, just look at it. This is what he wrote. As much as we might be dismayed by the actions of our political leaders, I hypothesize that toppling any particular junta, clique, or elite is irrelevant unless we also overthrow the sour, puckered mass hallucination that is mistakenly called reality, including the part of that hallucination that we foster in ourselves. The revolution begins at home. If you overthrow yourself again and again and again, you might earn the right to help overthrow the rest of us. Now, in retrospect, I actually think that's pretty brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to give Rob his props. I'm going to give him his due. I think that's actually pretty brilliant. But at some time, you have to stop overthrowing yourself. You have to. Because all you do is participate in this ever-changing cycle of theoretically overthrowing yourself, at some point, the revolution has to cease. There has to be a new order, and obviously a new order inside yourself. I'm not talking about external order. So that was when I read that statement, it's like, oh, come on, shit. Let's go. So I said, sounds great and golly wonderful on the surface, but I've heard this refrain from Brezhnev before. He never wants to get his hands dirty or sullied when it comes to naming perps, pointing out obvious agendas, or stopping liars in their tracks. It's this kind of spiritual solipsism, see, there's that word, that I couldn't wait to get away from fast enough from in California. Well, it seems like it's followed me here to Texas. Since I've heard it from Rob before, or some variation of it, it feels like he's saying there's nothing you can do about it, so you might as well just do that rigorous navel gazing, often defined as inner work. It reeks of a type of spiritual impotence masquerading as sage wisdom. Overthrowing your own stifling regime first. That sounds great. But what does it mean? And when are we supposedly ready to get back to the business of reclaiming the world from the psychopaths that snatched it from us? So I get into a couple other people here. Then again, so they don't, okay, so here's what I said. Now remember, look at the date on this. This is 2013, right? So we're 7 years out from where we are now. And this was my big point of contention, still is. They don't or won't tackle the knotty issues of our time, like chemtrails, 9/11, the thorny rise of the totalitarian state through excessive debt that's used as massive leverage against countries, including this one. But Rob in particular chooses to deflect any type of focused attention on these subjects. My beef with the New Age world. Meanwhile, in New York, the art-damaged millennial Damian Crisp and I got into it on Facebook. Crisp apparently is some kind of well-known occupier. Unlike Brezhnev, he's down for the revolution. He stands with the people of the world in their urgent struggle against corporations and militarized tyranny. Like Rob's Taoist dictum, it sounds great on the surface, but drill down a little and you'll find out that Crisp hates the USA and wants to see it fall as the USA and its policies are the reason why the world is such a dreadful mess. I told him that it's a planned demolition and the desecration of the country was a conscious manipulation, a poison PR, toxifying the global perspective of the USA. So when it goes down in flames, read this now. So when it goes down in flames, people won't care and will even cheer it on. I also told him to be careful what he wished for because he might get it and the result might be even worse than the rapid free fall we're in now. This is what I told the guy. This is it right here. A poison PR, right? Toxifying the global perspective of the USA. So when it goes down in flames, people won't care and will even cheer it on. I also told him to be careful what he wished for. Okay. Unlike Brezhnev, he's game for just about anything. Unfortunately, he has no grounding on who did what and why. He's never heard of the creature from Jekyll Island, Colonel House, Bernard Baruch, and the Hell Bomb, and the dark networks that have intertwined and coiled like serpents together over the folds of history. He wasn't interested in these theories. I've encountered this before with the so-called turned on left. They never want to know names or dates or histories or the internecine connections. They're much more comfortable with broad and monolithic labels like the oligarchy, the elite, and now the 1%. Never mind who they are. Chris was just interested in ripping apart the top-down structure. That's it. So on one side of the country, there's Rob Brezhnev, whose only call to action is inaction. And on the other, there's Crisp, who's ready to throw down, but only if it's global nihilism with a Marxist twist. So I decided it'd probably be best if all three of us had a cage match to determine whose overarching theory of how to save the world while ridding it of its evil scourge would win. I think it would go something like this. Brezhnev would show up in a pink one-piece wrestling leotard with a hole cut out for the navel, because that's where he would place a diamond sutra. He'd have to wear Chuck Taylors and some of those old 3D glasses from the 50s for ironic effect. Chris would no doubt agonize over his choice of attire, wanting it to be a statement of some sort, but not too much, so that he could then be accused of some sort of affected hipsterism. He'd probably show up in a pair of leather Gucci shorts, that would have been torn, burnt, and peed on as some sort of anti-corporate statement. I think he'd probably have his entire body given a Brazilian wax so he could stand in solidarity with the people of Sao Paulo. Of course, I'd have to wear a pair of Ben Davis overalls because they're still made in America. But I'd also have to wear a hemp t-shirt underneath just to let people know that I have some alternative cred as well. I'd also have to shave my head because somebody has to be the bald guy. Besides, I wouldn't want Chris to pull my hair. The bad guy. Bad guys in wrestling always have shaved heads. Here's how the epic battle royal would go down. I think Rob and I would go at it, pummeling our well-worn middle-aged bodies into the canvas of oblivion. But I think I can take Rob. My inner redneck is crazier than his inner Bolshevik. And I have Mars square sun, which is thermonuclear when activated. While Rob and I are duking out, Chris will be occupying the turnbuckle. Just as I'm about to put Brezhnev in an iron cross hammerlock, the same one that the Tibetans taught Hitler's officers, an iron cross hammerlock. Like, this is what's going on right now, right? The iron cross hammerlock, that's like a choking position. This is funny shit. All right, sorry. Chris flies off the turnbuckle, spouting Derrida as he jumps onto my back like a jackal. Of course, while he's going after me, Brezhnev recovers. And he's teaming up with Chris because if you go far enough to the edge of any extreme, they'll both meet up and then do some sort of sweaty ideological man hug thing. It's not looking good for yours truly. But just about the same time, when Chris was going to rip my overalls off me as some sort of symbolic gesture, there's a flash of light before us. Jesus appears. Although it looks more like Sister Myra than Jesus, much to the surprise of the viewing. Now, Sister Myra was this really interesting woman that I would have on my show every now and then. And Sister Myra was a so-called Black African-American woman who was venerated. She was absolutely venerated in the sort of the Black astrological community. And I really liked her. I used to have her on my show back in the Blog Talk Radio days. And she was one of these people that was breaking down like the Super Bowl symbolism back in, what would that have been, like 2011? I loved her. I thought she was great. She was a little rough, a little unpolished, but I loved her. I thought she was great. So I brought her in. I brought her into the story, and she played the role of the apparition of Jesus here. Okay. So here we go. Okay. Sister Mara tells us to stop. We do. Then she says, we're just a byproduct of strategy set up to divide and conquer all of us, and that we should work together to defeat the real evil on the planet. Dumbfounded and in awe of this miracle, we shake our heads. Yes. Okay, then, she says, let's make it happen. Before we know it, right before our very eyes, the forces of evil are summoned to do battle with us. Right there, right then. It's kind of like that old Star Trek episode where Kirk, Spock, Abe Lincoln, and some famous Vulcan have to fight the most evil men of the universe throughout all time on a neutral planet, refereed by an alien that looks like a giant clump of dog shit with Christmas lights. You guys remember that episode? That's what it looked like a giant clump of dog shit with Christmas lights. There before us are Dick Cheney, Hillary Clinton, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Bill Gates. In theory, the only one I'm worried about is Bibi, since I know he's got some badass Krav Maga training from his IDF days. I remind Sister Myra that there's 4 of them and just 3 of us. She says, don't worry, I've added another member to your team. I look to my left, and it's David Wilcock. Sister Myra says, I tried to find a woman to fight Hillary, but David was as close as I could get. She also tells me that it's been nearly 10 days since Hillary's last Botox treatment. That all we have to do is hold up a mirror to her, and she'll go into full-on Medusa mode. I look at Cheney, and he might not be as much of a pushover as we think. In fact, I think he has a new heart, and the dark rumors that it's Trayvon Martin's. That's the last thing we need, the heart of an angry young black male whose life was cut short. If it's true, Cheney could be trouble. Now he supposedly has a member the size of Delaware, and I doubt that even the most sophisticated supporters could hold that in. I tell Brezhnev, go right to the dragon's head, because that's where he'll defeat the beast. Luckily, Wilcock had been working on a hyperbolic refractor that doubles as a mirror, and he brought it with him. Snakes ahoy. I mentioned to Crisp that Gates could be a lot more dangerous than he appears. He might have a few shots of some wicked-ass vaccines hidden in his boot. It looks like I get BB. I'm already exhausted from the previous matchup, so I have to think fast. I look into the audience, and there's a hot dog vendor. I ask him if the hot dog is beef or pork, and he says pork. Hallelujah. I grab it and brandish it right in front of BB's grill. He steps backward. It's like kryptonite. This flaccid bludgeon of porcine menace has become my Excalibur. I'm slapping BB in the face repeatedly with it. He's helpless. Can't do a thing. It's so bad. It's like a scene from the Three Stooges, and I'm Moe and he's Curly. I'm just about to plunge the sweaty dog right into his third eye, and all of a sudden it's grabbed right out of my hand by Crisp, flashing a wicked grin. I'm not sure if he's a double agent or so hell-bent on America's destruction that, like the scorpion and the frog, he just can't help himself. Well, by now, BB is recovered and summoned a 3,000-year-old Babylonian demon to finish me off. It looks bad. Lights out for America. And then I hear Brezhnev, just surrender, man. And that's what I do. I lay back on the canvas and await my fate. And just when the demon is about to suck my soul dry, they all disappear. Every single one of them, except Sister Myra. She says to me, Robert, this was all for you. All of it. You created every single one of them, even me. And now that you just let go of the struggle and the fight, they have dissolved. And now I will go as well. But remember, you couldn't get here without the struggle. And I asked, what about them? Did they get the same lesson too? She replied, it doesn't matter because you're free now and they don't even exist. Oh, and one other thing. Drop the hot dogs. Your blood pressure is 140/99. And with that, she was gone. So there you go. There was a little bit of humor there. That thanks to Mr. C, I was able to kind of go back in time and kind of get a chuckle. And there's some stuff in there that I think is probably, how do I say this? Instructive. I think there's some instructive stuff in there. But you see, that's the beautiful thing about humor. That is the beautiful thing about humor, is that it can make us laugh. It can provide us little pieces of enlightenment and nuggets of wisdom along the way. So in the darkest hours, don't forget to laugh. It's very important. It's very, very important. Levity is the antidote to gravity. Okay. So I wanted to continue the more serious side of things. Because there's a lot to I want to talk about 4th of July. It's in the title of the show. We're going through an eclipse that weekend, and everything I'm reading about the 4th of July is that it is potentially really, really explosive. And I'm meaning that in a literal and a figurative sense. Literal and figurative sense. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, here's the intel. The intel is that many, many communities have canceled their fireworks this year because of the COVID. Where are those fireworks going? Now, we're not talking standard, fireworks stand fireworks. We're talking big shit fireworks. Think of how many communities around the country buy these massive amounts of fireworks. And these are really, really significant fireworks. These are like missiles, okay? Just keep your head wrapped around that. Who's buying those fireworks? Oh, yeah. There are people buying those fireworks. You bet your ass they are. And they have a very different idea about the 4th of July this year. So I'm sharing what I know from an intel perspective and what I know from an astrological perspective. It's important to understand that we are headed into a period, probably starting on Friday night and extending through Saturday and the weekend, that I think is mission critical. Mission critical. how do I share this with you without raising the level of alarm to an anxiety or cortisol rising level? Okay. I'm going to say 2 words: the purge. The purge. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say is the purge. So if you live in, and I'm not talking about cities now. I'm not talking about cities. I'm talking about suburbs and even small towns. If you live in these places, you really, really need to be very aware of your surroundings and what's going on over the course of the next 3 to 4 days, especially when it hit Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's significant, and particularly Saturday night. Remember, it's a lunar eclipse. We're also dealing with Mercury retrograde. Mars is in Aries. We got the squares starting to go off now with Mars. They're going to start to happen. It's a very intense time. You know, even though the sun is going to be at like 12, it's a wide square. Mars is a wide square to the sun at this point in time. But as Mars moves forward, those squares are going to get more intense. So just, you know, be very prepared. And here are the things that I think you can do to be prepared. Number 1, make sure that you have a fire extinguisher in your house. Okay. You just got to make sure that you should have one anyway. All right. Make sure that you have access to hoses, both in the front and back of your house. These are all very preventative measures, very important things, because even if there was something like a theoretical fire, you want to be able to like hose your roof down or whatever, right? So these 2 things are very, very important. Very important. The other thing that I would be, if you live in an area and you have like a connection with people on your block or whatever, and most of them are somewhat open or even involved in protecting their property, you should be talking to them and just to say, hey, look, 4th of July is coming. And, you know, we really need to be really aware and to look out for one another. Now, here's where I think things could get gnarly. This is where I think things could get gnarly, is if the power grid is cut during this time. Because all communications will be down, being able to call somebody, whether it's a first responder, that would add to this level of heightened anxiety and fear. Okay. And I watched this guy, Charlie, what's his name? Charlie, where I just saw him. Hold on. He was on with Jason Goodman. He and Ole were on with Jason Goodman. It was quite interesting. He talked about astrology and how astrology really kind of maps out this time. Yeah, we know that, right? Anyway, he talked about the 3 days of darkness. He said that they're going to come between the 2nd and the 9th of July. Now, again, this is a, you know, where we go one, we go all guy. He's a Q guy. So I'm not vested in that. And I'm going to spin into something else after this. So don't go away, right? I'm going to do the show for about another 15 minutes and I'm going to have to hit the road and migrate to pick up the Monterey. Anyway, so if we're moving into this 3 days of darkness, and his and I'm going to link this up now, so you're going to have to follow me a bit here. But if we move into that 3 days of darkness, and it's around the 4th of July, holy shit. I mean, it is a holy shit moment. It's a holy shit moment. Because if we're moved into that and then we have this purge-like environment taking place, right? Think of the emotion. Think of the anxiety. Think of the loosh, okay? So I'm all about mindset. And this is something I've just been working on for the last 2 years. You know, I've been in training, right? I've been in training for this time. A lot of you have been. You know, lifetimes, you know, and for me, really the last 2 years specifically, the last year where I've been doing my best to develop to develop really specific kinds of skills. And you could do this on a very fundamental level. And you could train yourself on a very fundamental level. And I'll just give you a quick little example and I'll go back to the main theme. Let's say, for instance, you go to a store. Oh, and I do want to talk about stores. Let's say, for instance, you want to go to a store. You go to a store and you want a thing at that store. But in your head, you're thinking they may not have the thing. Right? You have to prepare for that. So if they don't have the thing, sometimes they will have the thing. But if they don't have the thing, then what are you going to do? You have to have a plan B. Your plan B is, well, if they don't have the thing, then I'm going to do something different. And that I'm not going to fall prey to the expectations or the frustration of me getting that thing or experiencing that thing. Why? Because you've already mapped it out in your head. You've got a backup plan and you've already moved on, right? This is managing time and events in your life. It's very important. So that's about mindset and it's about preparedness. And this is just a simple thing that people in the military do all the time. They got a plan A, they got a plan B, they got a plan C. So developing mindset is important. So now you've got, 2-3 days to develop a mindset about this weekend. And you can develop that mindset any way you want. You can pray, that's fine, right? You can pray for strength, whatever these things are. You can pray for people not getting hurt, whatever you want. You want to do that, and that's your mindset, thumbs up, right? But you got to prepare, because if you don't prepare for the storm, then the storm is going to knock you on your fucking ass. You know, I'm always looking at things in the media and stories and stuff that really sticks in my head. And I remember, and I've told the story before, when the hurricane, what was it? Was it Maria? Was it Maria, the one that was in Florida? Ani and Steve will know that. I think it was Maria. Anyway, it was hanging out for a long time. So there's this guy, Reggie Wayne. And Reggie Wayne used to play for the Indianapolis Colts, went to the University of Miami. I think he lives in Miami or somewhere in Florida. And I remember seeing him tweet something that, as this stuff is unfolding, as the storm is unfolding, he's running around to try and get a generator. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're waiting for this thing to happen before you have a generator? Okay, and based on what I know about him, his status in the NFL, how long he played in this area, this guy is not impoverished. He could have bought 3 generators, big, massive diesel generators. He could have had them set up already, but he didn't. So now he's running around as the storm about to hit, trying to find a generator. See, that's what I'm talking about. And we got a storm. It's going to hit. So you better be prepared. Whatever that means to you. Okay. Mindset. The other thing that I would highly suggest is, if indeed the power theoretically goes out, that you have some illumination, whether it's lanterns with batteries, whether it's candles, whether it's kerosene lamps. You need those anyway. You need them anyway. You may as well just go get them. Get them now. And it's funny. So here comes the store part. I went out last night. I drove. I went to Kerrville. I just decided I want to be out of Fredericksburg. So I was looking for a few things, and I went to Walmart in Kerrville. And I don't want to go to Walmart, but I will go to the Walmart in Kerrville. I know it's weird. Number one, it's way bigger than the one here. Number two, there are even people in Kerrville that work at that Walmart that don't wear masks. Like, there was a guy in the meat market, in the meat section, he wasn't wearing a mask. So it's a different kind of environment. Kerrville up to now said you don't have to wear a mask. So I went there. So one of the things that I saw was a depletion of goods. I went through where they have the home goods and things like stools, tables, chairs, wiped out. And this is a story and a theme that I'm hearing with all these different retail outlets. They are not getting things from China. The supply chain is broken. And a lot of these stores, they know that their time is up and they're trying to liquidate everything as quickly as possible. And so there are things you can get online. You go to JCPenney online, they're toast. You can go to Macy's online, they're on life support. You can actually find some things. But in physical stores, it's very hard to find stuff. Very, very hard. So that said, I walked around and I went to get a lamp for my mother while she's here. And I looked around, I looked over to my right. So on the one side, they've got like electric lamps, and on the other side, they have candles and they have like kerosene lamps, oil lamps. There are only 2 oil lamps left. And in terms of the lamp fuel, whatever that stuff is, that was going away too. So I thought, well, this is interesting. This is very interesting. So file that away. Okay. File that away. And in a time of darkness, you need illumination. You need illumination. That's inner illumination. And then whatever you can, piece together inside your own environment. See, that's a very simple thing about mindset. If the power does go off, how are you going to keep the lights on? Right? Or how are you going to keep things lit? It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So you got to think about that. Very important. Very, very, very important. Mindset is everything. And when you prepare, and even if you prepare, there are things that you may not even be able to prepare for, right? But if you can prepare for 80% of what you can intuit that might be coming, right? Then you're going to be able, if that 20% comes up, you don't have to deal with the other 80%. You can focus on dealing with that 20%. And you can be very effective in the moment with that 20%. And that's true for life. That's just true for life. So if you could take care of it as much as you can, which again, generous 80%, you don't have to worry about it. Then you can focus on the 20%, and then you can be in the moment. When you're in the moment, really amazing things can happen. Really amazing things. All right, I got a great story to share for you, and I'm going to go back to another level with this. Another level, and it's an interesting level. So I was talking with my good friend Bev last night, and I don't know if she's in the chat room today, but I've known Bev for a very long time. Go back to her 1994 in California, and Bev crossed my path when I was giving a talk at the Whole Life Expo. It was like my first public talk, and it was about ambient music. So I busted out all these kinds of versions of the development of ambient music and stuff like that, because that's what I was doing at that time. I was selling ambient music, electronic sort of ambient dance music. I was really into that whole world. So she showed up my talk, and we became friends. And I've known her since 1994, and she's been a great, great supporter of my work, and somebody who's been just really an invaluable presence in my life since 1994. And she's got some very interesting stories in her own right. So guess what? She was at the Crimmies, right? She was at the Crimmies. She went to North Carolina, and there she is, right here, the Crimmies. Bev is back driving from home from here right now. So I was on FaceTime with the Crimmies and Bev last night for about an hour, and it was great. So I want to tell you the story that she shared with me. It's a mind-blowing story, but it speaks to the tenor of our times. So she told me the story that I think the Crimmies gave her an address for this restaurant that they love, and she put the address in her GPS. And it took her and her friend to the wrong place or a different place, and wasn't even the restaurant. They were befuddled. Like, what's going on here? Why are we at this place? So I think she entered the address again, and it took her and her friend to the actual restaurant. Okay. So when they got there, she walks in, and there's this woman who I think is walking out, right? They're walking out. And I think it was with her daughter or something. And she looks at her and she says, "Are you Bev blank, Beverly blank?" And she says, "Yeah, I am." Now, remember now, This is in Crimmy territory, North Carolina, and Bev lives in Virginia, and she went to school in Long Island in New York. Okay, so this woman who crosses her path in this restaurant, she went to kindergarten with her. She went to kindergarten. How about that? So think about the circumstances. So bizarre. She has to go to North Carolina, certain time, hang out with the Crimmies. They send her to go to this restaurant, particular restaurant. Then the GPS has this weird Deus Ex Machina moment, sends her to this place that doesn't exist. They do it again. They go to this restaurant. They get there. And it's all about the timing. All of a sudden, she's crossing paths with this woman who she went to freaking kindergarten with and who recognized her. Right? Recognized her. How amazing is that? See, this is the type of world we're living in now, and you're not going to see it on the evening news. It's not going to get much mention, but this is the kind of world we're living in now. And these sorts of things are going to emerge more and more and more and more. Okay? More and more and more and more and more. As we allow them to participate in our lives. This is the inner emergent reality. We have to make it through this time. We have to make it through this time. It is essential. It is essential. And if we get through this time, these are the birth pangs. These are the birth pangs for our new world. We're in it, man. We are in the birth canal right now. And so much can take place during this process. And I'm not being too dramatic. I don't believe we're being too dramatic. Yeah, Chris and Steve are lauding Beverly's energy. Just a great person, totally great person, and again, very very supportive to what I do, and in so many ways, both actually from a tactical perspective and just from a place of support. All right, so this whole Corona thing, right? The WHO are jamming it, the CDC is jamming it, the media is jamming it. We got the red going to blue governors jamming it. And when you know that all those agencies are jamming it, guess what? It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a total lie. Sorry. It's a lie. Why? Because they have been inconsistent. And if I need to go back through this, vis-a-vis proving this, the way that people can convey and support truth is to be consistent and to have the same message over and over and over and over again. Okay? Right. But it's not like a Goebbels kind of thing. Right? It's not manufacturing truth. And you know the difference. You know the difference. The manufactured truth has corn syrup. Real truth does not have any sugars in it at all. And if it does, it's just naturally occurring coconut sugar or something. I don't know. Right? This is what I'm talking about. We know the difference. You know the difference. You can feel it in your body. Okay. So we look back on what the WHO was telling us. Radically different kinds of information. Radically different. And even just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Tedros is walking stuff back. People inside the WHO are walking stuff back. We've seen Fauci walk stuff back. We see it's just been so inconsistent. And again, the reason I'm saying this, let me just say this, just to make it clear. They are not trustworthy. So I'm going to take the lie piece out of it. They're not trustworthy. They're not trustworthy because if they were trustworthy, number one, they would have been consistent. And number two, whatever they said was going to happen would have happened, and it didn't. And all I got to do is say 2 words, Niall Ferguson. That's it. That's it. That's it. So they started out with this thing using his model, and it was completely erroneous. Erroneous. So now they're doing the same thing again, and they're asking us to believe the same thing all over again, sans Niall Ferguson. How do you think people are going to respond to this? Not well. And I can tell you that right now. Not well. Not well. So I'm going to try to take this to another level now. Okay. Because they're using this to put us back in our homes, slam the economy down once again, and put the nail in the coffin for the good old USA. All right. So I think Joan sent me this video on the Hidden King, and I'm sure some of you have seen this already. Okay, it's this guy named Gregory. I think it's Joseph Gregory Hallett. I'll put the link in here to the show page, and essentially, the Hidden King is this guy's story, and he basically says that he is the true King of England, and that Queen Elizabeth has abdicated the throne, and I do believe that there's some truth to that part, because there's a seal that's missing outside of Buckingham Palace, and the Pope has abdicated as well. So we have these two pillars of royalty, right? And so his story is quite interesting on some level. But when I look at the story, I'm like, okay, who is this guy really? Now, here's where he's connected to Gesara, the debt that goes away, right? All the debt that goes away. They're going to bring out the new technology, right? So this guy has, he's got a little sniff of the AC, if you know what I mean. He's got a little sniff of the AC. You know what I'm talking about when I say AC. I'm not talking about air conditioning. People need to just keep their high beams on. Do not be seduced. Don't be seduced, because in a time of terror, in a time of chaos, people will look for somebody to restore order. Just remember that. Lois says no more crowns. Yeah, exactly. I'm watching this guy, and he's kind of impressive. But you watch the video, it feels like an infomercial. It has the look and feel of a freaking infomercial. And there's even this one scene where somebody calls him. Yeah, somebody calls him during the interview to give him intel. It looks like a fucking stage phone call, infomercial, right? He's claiming the title Christ. Yeah, he believed. So he's talking about how there were two Christs, and that the second Christ was Jesus' second or third cousin, and that Jesus was a Christ for a particular age, and there's another Christ for the new age, and that is him. This guy was just found shot death. He said he is the real Prince Harry. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. AC. Anybody let the cat out of the bag? Decipherable missile. Yeah, AC. Think Revelation. Right? Revelation. In an old video, it's almost as if he's a Russian plant agent. That's very interesting. Yeah, we don't need any more crowns. We don't need any more kings. We don't need any more queens. This is not what we need. That there would be this idea that this rightful and divine order was restored to this planet because this guy's going to roll in to Buckingham Palace, sit on the throne. They're going to put a crown on his head. So if you watch the video, he talks about a time when he has a like a play date with, I think it's King George VII's kid. And he references this time as 1967. And I think he references his age at about 5. If I'm not mistaken, I have to watch it again. So if that's the case, then that would take him back to the year 1962. And what chart have I talked about in 1962? The AC chart. Again, I just have to do the math on that. I think I've seen the video once. I saw it today. And I think people need to be very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Conscious. Be conscious about the video. Be conscious about the promises. Be conscious about all of this. Because even though it sounds great, and even though it could be a game changer, it could also be a level of high deception. Now, what's interesting is that he's including Trump in the conversation. He talks about the Bible and St. John's, and like Trump is connected to this whole thing. Probably is. On some level, he probably is. So I'm just saying, high beams on. Yeah, 67, 76, 92, 9/11. Yeah, it's just time. The time, it's like, come on now. No more kings. No more queens. Regulus is at 0 Virgo. The royal star is at 0 Virgo. It's moved out of Leo. The royal star is moved out of Leo in Western Placidus astrology. Tropical, right? Tropical, Western Placidus astrology. Boom. It's moved out of Leo. It's a different time. It's not a time about kings. It's a time about service. There we go. All right, I'm going to head on out of here. Which video does Robert analyze the AC chart? It's the 1962 February chart of 1962, where there's a massive stellium in the sign of Aquarius. Right, that's the chart I'm referring to. You can find that, I think, on my website. Okay, I think I'm out of here. Look, there's so much more I want to cover. I could do like a 3-hour show every day. I really could, because there's so much going on. There's so much happening right now. So much happening. And I do think it's important that we really hold the space. We really, really hold the space. Oh, here we go. This is good. Check this out. This is really good. It's a Zero Hedge article, so I'm just going to source it. This is encouraging. Right, this is encouraging. LA orders closure beaches for July 4th weekend. Sheriff refuses to enforce ban. The closure of Los Angeles beaches over July 4 weekend was ordered by county officials to prevent dangerous crowding. Fireworks displays in the county will be prohibited. Blah, blah, blah. Barbara Farrar, the county's director of public health, said in a statement that closing the beaches and prohibiting fireworks displays during such an important summer holiday was an incredibly difficult decision. Oh, yeah, right. Right. So who's the sheriff? Alex Villanueva has said he would not be enforcing the order to shut beaches down, saying he had not been consulted prior to the announcement. Now, we'll see if he walks that back, because a lot of times these people say something and then they walk it back, which is probable. But it's encouraging, right? It's encouraging. So I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Covered a lot of ground today. Remember, mindset. It's everything. It's everything. Mindset can help you get through just about anything in your life. If you prepare mentally for a potential outcome, you can't control the outcome. See, this is important now. You can't control the outcome. But by being prepared, you can be less engaged in the variables, so you can be in the moment to deal with the moment. That's an important thing to remember. All right, thanks for showing up here. Chatlandia, you're the best, right? You're the absolute best. Anybody else who's watching this video, thank you for. And by the way, I get emails every now and then that say, thanks for what you're doing, or really enjoy the videos. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's an affirmation that we're all on the right path together. So use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have yourself a very great day. Bye for now.